friends, welcome to our next video. In this we are going to cover the last part of chapter 2, that is how the energy flows through an ecosystem. So we will begin with a very basic term, that is food chain, then food web, and at last the pyramids of ecosystem. First is food chain. As it is very clear from the name itself, it is the chain or series of organisms in which each organism depends on other organism for the food material, which means the whole process of transfer of energy depends on the repeated eating, and based on these eating habits only, every organism is allotted a specific step or a specific level, which we call as the trophic level. Like the plants are placed at the first step of trophic level because they act as the producers, and then the herbivores, then carnivores, and then the top consumers. Now the fourth and very important point is energy flow is always unidirectional. This we can see from the example of simple food chain. Here the fox depends on rabbit and the rabbit depend on plants for the food requirement, but the opposite doesn't happen, that is, rabbit doesn't depend on the fox to fulfill its food requirement. That's why we say energy flow is always unidirectional. Now let's see in detail what are trophic levels. This is the place occupied by the organism on the basis of the food requirement. Here we place the producers at first trophic level, and then primary consumers at second trophic level, and then the secondary consumers or primary carnivores at the third trophic level, and the top consumers at the fourth trophic level. And generally a maximum of 4 trophic levels are present because 90% of energy is lost as we move from one trophic level to other trophic level, and only 10% of energy is transferred. As exceptions are always there, so we can also see a food chain up to 5 trophic levels, but only in the highly complex ecosystems. Now let's see the types of food chain. In nature, there are 3 types of food chain. First, grazing food chain. Second, parasitic food chain. And third is detritus food chain. Grazing food chain can be seen in aquatic ecosystems as well as in grassland ecosystems, whereas parasitic food chain can be seen in tree ecosystem. Now firstly, let's see grazing food chain. It is also known as predatory food chain, and most of the food chains are of this type only. It starts from the producers and goes from small organisms to the big organisms. Example of grazing food chain are aquatic food chain and grassland food chain. In aquatic food chain, phytoplanktons, which are the smaller organisms, act as the food for zooplanktons, and then zooplanktons are the food for small fishes, and small fish acts as the food for large fish. And same in the grassland ecosystem. Grass is eaten by the rabbit, and then rabbit is eaten by the fox, and fox is eaten by the lion. That is, the food chain starts from the smaller organism and goes to the bigger organism. Second is parasitic food chain. It starts from the producers but goes from big organisms to the smaller organism. Example of this is tree ecosystem. Here, on a single tree, many birds are present, and on a single bird, many parasites are present. So here, parasites are the smaller organisms and the tree is the bigger one, and the food chain goes from big organism to the smaller organism. Third one is the detritus food chain. It is also known as the saprophytic food chain, and it begins with the decomposition of dead organic matter by the bacteria or fungi. So here bacteria and fungi are the primary consumers. Here are some important points to note. Both grazing food chain and parasitic food chain are directly dependent on the sunlight. This we have already seen in the example. Second, in detritus food chain, energy flow is slow but the magnitude of energy is greater. Third, in aquatic ecosystem, major conduit of energy is grazing food chain. And as the magnitude of energy is greater in detritus food chain, so in terrestrial ecosystem it is the major conduit of energy flow. Now let's see the food web. Interlinkage of food chains on different trophic levels form the food web. In food web, transfer of energy is unidirectional, but it is transferred from different alternative paths. And ecosystem having complex food webs are more stable or permanent as compared to the ecosystem which have simple food webs, because the ecosystem with complex food web is not affected by the loss of any single organism from a particular trophic level, as the food requirement will get fulfilled by the alternative path. Now let's see our last topic, pyramids of ecosystem. The first pyramid was formed by Charles Elton, that's why they are also known as Eltonian pyramids. These are the graphical representations of ecological parameters at different trophic levels. And the parameters on which the types of pyramids are divided are number, second biomass, and third energy. First is pyramid of number. Here each tier denotes the number of individual organisms in various trophic levels. These are mostly upright, and the example of pyramid of number are grassland ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. Here we can see from the picture of pyramid, for a particular number of rabbits to survive, comparatively high amount of grass is needed. And similarly, for the fox to survive and to fulfill its food requirement, high number of rabbits are needed, and similar is the case with lion and the fox. Second is pyramid of biomass. It represents the total amount of biomass. These are mostly upright, and the examples of this are tree ecosystem and forest ecosystem. And the last is pyramid of energy. It represents the amount of energy at different trophic levels. Energy pyramids are always upright or erect because there is gradual decrease in energy at successive trophic levels. According to the 10% law of Lindemann, the 90% part of the obtained energy of each organism is utilized in their various metabolic activities, and only 10% is transferred to the next trophic level. So 90% energy is lost at each trophic level, and this is the reason why the top consumers like the lion are ecologically weakest but physically they are the strongest. That's it for the video. Now we are done with chapter 2. If you have any doubts, do mention them in the comment box and we will try to answer it at the first. And for the detailed notes, visit our website hrcharitima.com. Thanks for watching.